We're going to start the day with a marketing panel on strategies. And we have here today with us Dayana Aleksandrovna, James Ray, Victor Tamer, and Max and Victor Tamer. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay.
Can we have that mic?
That was close. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea, and a big round of applause for Andrea, please. Okay, is this on? Yeah. Okay, pass that over to Victor.
Victor, you got your own one.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We know that finding stage 3 could be a bit of an adventure, especially in the morning. Said me running down the cobblestone streets in my new shoes. But we're so happy that you're here. We have a wonderful panel for you today. It is focused on marketing. And one thing to keep in mind is that we will have a bit of time for questions in the end. So whatever you would like to know, these guys are real experts in the marketing field of Web3 with extensive experience in Web2 as well. So don't be shy. Just think of what you want to ask and ask away. So before we dive in, let's give a moment each to our speakers to tell you who they are and what they do. Jay, let's start with you.
Hey there, guys. Nice to see everybody this morning. I hope everyone's had a nice, relaxing evening before the start of this 3-day. Really happy to be here. So quick background on myself. I'm Jay. I set up a marketing agency about 2.5 years ago. I focus on helping projects get exposure through social media, get traction on their Twitter, their X, social media platforms like Telegram, Discord, and just leveraging, the marketing channels to grow and bolster their communities. So in my last couple of years, been working with projects doing token launches, NFT launches, and really just helping brands pivot into the Web3 space. So yeah, happy to pass on to Max now.
Hi everyone, Max here. Yes, so thank you for having me, by the way. It was a little bit of a last minute one, but I'm happy to be here. Same as Jay, I'm running a marketing agency called All Time High. My background comes from market making. When I joined, let's say, with my business partner, he was more focused on marketing. So yeah, we decided to actually combine forces. I think Web3 marketing is literally very similar to Web2 marketing in general, but we do have different channels and avenues that we use. And yeah, I think today we'll explore the marketing avenues that we focus more.
Excellent.
Thank you, Dayana. Happy to be here at NapulETH and happy to be with you on the panel. So I'm Victor Tamer. I write for Bean Crypto. Bean Crypto is one of the top 3 leading Web3 media in the world. And I also do partnerships management for them. And I do PR for Opium Agency.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. As I said, guys, these are real experts here on the panel. So let's dive with our first question, which is probably my favorite question, because in our essence, we all come from the world of Web2, and it's arguable that there would be no Web3 if there wasn't Web2 with all of its drawbacks. So let me ask you, what are some core differences between marketing in Web2 and Web3? Who would like to start?
Jump in.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's something worth mentioning is that marketing really simply put is just communications, communicating your brand to your audience and growing your audience in a very, obviously, which we like to use in our organic campaigns. The problem that you have within the Web3 space is if you're working with financial products, you can't actively advertise and promote those products in the same way that you can in the Web2 space. An example of that is we've done a little bit of work with different layer 1 blockchains where you have a financial instrument that's not regulated yet. So you cannot just be, shouting and screaming, putting ads out, look, come buy our product, because in the end of the day, you're probably going to get, looked into. So the core differences, I think, are more about on the community side. You're growing a community in such a way that you're not sort of selling. I think we've all heard this before, but the best way to sell is to not sell at all. So I think when you use those techniques, which I'm sure Max and Victor will jump into now, you can find yourself growing your community in such a way that really differentiates between the Web2 classic marketing techniques that you would use.
I will jump on this. Yeah, amazing, thank you. Yeah, I do agree with you, Jay. In terms of promoting a brand, essentially is the same. I think Web3, Web2, they do work the same. When you promote a brand, essentially you just promote the culture of the brand and the ethics of the brand. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll do it. And yeah, building the community essentially what matters, right? All these brands in Web3, they do they do try and to build their community, which essentially are the first users, the first one trying the product, the first ones essentially promoting you across the channels, social medias, whatever, speak about you. So that's first thing. And then secondly, I think the most important part is obviously knowing how to communicate and high quality visuals, obviously videos, 3D videos, animation. The communication itself has to be very attractive and funny at the same time. So that's definitely something that I've seen that this boot run is actually working quite well. Another thing I would like to add is essentially the channels, right? We do focus a lot on X, and we think like X is the Web3 channel, but I'm actually seeing a lot of brands coming on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. They don't really speak about the token. Obviously, that's something you cannot do, and you might get banned or whatever. But I've seen many crypto projects actually running ads on traditional Web2 channels, and yeah, they are not promoting the token. They are just promoting the brand. Like they're just speaking about themselves. They obviously try to onboard newbies or onboard new people to whatever they are selling or whatever they are building. So I think there is not much difference in terms of how you have to communicate, but obviously the community is what matters. It's a user base, are the ones buying your product, the one using your product. So definitely focus on community.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think consent is what's the difference between Web 2 marketing and Web 3. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Well, the way it works right now with Web 2 is you collect data about people, you sell the data to advertisers that throw advertising to their target market. With Web 3 marketing, if you own your data, then you need to consent to whatever you can see or whatever you join. So I agree, it's more about community. So brands are going to need to build a community, and it's going to be more engaging with customer rather than just shoving images into their face. So consent, what is the difference to me?
That's a great answer, and I love how you said that you can't be shoving content into people's faces, because people in Web3 are more selective. They're more savvy. We've all been through the web to buy my offer for $9.97 or other tactics that are so jaded. However, one thing that is to be said, and Max touched on this, is that a lot of the channels that we utilize in Web 2 marketing are also applicable for Web 3 marketing. So let me get your perspective on this. As a Web3 marketer, which channels are you most using, and where are you seeing the most success?
Yeah, I think coming into that, there's some really key players in the social media landscape right now. Of course, Twitter, now called X, is, I would call, the town square of all things crypto. Just jumping in quickly to what you said there about the Web 2 side to the Web 3, I think there's a great way to relate those, and it's actually going to Web 3 events like this, and other Ethereum events around Europe, compared to events like Web Summit. And if you go to those events, everyone's like, they're trying to sell you something before they even know your name. And we've all been in that scenario. And I think what happens in this space is we gravitate towards people, we build a rapport with them, and then we end up going into business with them. And I think they're the key differences. So like coming into more of an open space where people can kind of give and take. And then when you see that in the marketing channels that people are using, it's open spaces. I think the main thing is that you're opening the community up to what's going on within the organization, which is very different from Web 2 to Web 3. Web 3, it's an open book. Web 3, not just open source networks that blockchains are built on, but the open book of knowledge, of information for the community to have access to, and that is really key. So any brands that I work with, I say how important it is that you jump on regular spaces to tell the community what's going on, regular updates in terms of the roadmap. They can be put out in, for example, Medium or Mirror articles that are then posted and reshared in short-form content on platforms like X. Of course, having a very engaged Telegram channel or Telegram group is really vital as well, and Discord. Using those social media server-style apps like Telegram and Discord to really keep the communication open. You got to make sure you have your reply guys in there. And then, of course, using platforms like X and onboarding people through Instagram, just like Max said. I think it's important that we're using, especially LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is probably leading in terms of growth for Web3 space. You can grow on LinkedIn quicker than you can grow on X currently. And I don't know how you guys are thinking about that. The content that's coming through on LinkedIn is really at a high level now. I think they're trying to catch up with X on the crypto side of things. But yeah, I'll pass it over to Max.
Yeah, I actually want to bring up like a real example, which is like Ponky. You guys probably heard about the meme on Solana, right? I would say it's a blue chip meme. And if you look at the TikTok, they have a TikTok page, which I found out recently. And yeah, the TikTok page is actually quite funny, and they have millions of views and millions of comments. The only what I've noticed is that the only thing they did is just to create like high quality content. Like obviously they have their own way of creating the narrative and kind of creating the videos, but they're actually funny. So I think yeah, people like the video even if they are not in crypto, they just like the videos, right? So to onboard or at least to change from just posting on X, focusing on X, which probably most of the projects out there are doing, the same content you create for X or Reddit or whatever other channel you're using, TikTok, Instagram, all the other social medias are literally working the same. So yeah, it's content first, absolutely content. Like I've seen content is what essentially works. Obviously it's consistency. Don't expect overnight to have millions of followers and people liking your post. And that's definitely something I've been focusing this year with all the clients we've been working with. Essentially, it's focus on content and be unique. You need to have your own way of creating content. Don't just copy someone. Then the second part, I think, like other avenues that I've seen onboarding now, obviously, it's not Web 2, it's more Web 3, right? Which probably Web 2 are not using it, which is Brave ads and Telegram ads, right? So we have some avenues where Web 2 are not actually promoting, which I think in a second stage, Web 2 will come to Web 3 avenues to promote themselves, right? So it's a little bit of both, where Web 2, they have their own unique ways of selling their products or promoting themselves, and Web 3, they do focus on specific channels. But at the end of the day, it's communication, right? If you want to have your brand positioning, you want to be everywhere, you should have YouTube channel open, you should have Reddit, you should have X, all the social medias open. And yeah, just create content on all of them. I mean, if you might have a user base on Reddit, which is not the same user base you have on X or on TikTok, so you are missing out. So if you are anyway creating content and the communication is done for X, just do it for the other channels as well. And obviously that means communication about the brand, definitely not promoting the token. I mean, Ponky on TikTok, they are not promoting the token. It's just this funny character, monkey, that is actually trading and being excited about the trade. So it's purely communication, right? Yeah. Fun enough, I mean, with the meme scene this year, I've seen definitely the best content out there, honestly, like in terms of unique content. And yeah, I think, yeah, content is the main, definitely the main.
Yeah, without repeating what you said, because I agree, basically what we hear is we still use the old platform. I mean, the Web 2 platforms to communicate about Web 3. And it's great, everybody has its favorite. I agree with LinkedIn, what you said. But basically we do this because there's no real Web3 social media platform right now. So that's just a conclusion.
Lens.
No one is like the leader of the market so far. Yeah. So that's what I meant. So we're communicating about Web3 on Web2 platforms because there's no Web3 platforms that are mass adopted.
Yeah, and I will get you in a sec. A personal opinion here is that what Victor said is actually very true. There isn't one dominant social platform. However, there are protocols that are trying to build the Web3 social platform. Are any of you here on Farcaster? Hand up if you're on Farcaster. Okay, great. You guys connect after this. Is anyone here on Lens? Yes. Okay, we're on Lens. There are protocols out there, such as Lens Protocol and Farcaster, that are trying to be the leading social platform for Web3. However, also a personal opinion, once the wars between these social belongings, which platform are you on, stop, then we're best positioned to have our next leading unified Web3 social platform. Yes, sir, you had a question? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love it. You're straight into it. You know, we've got through the appetizers straight into the main course. I would love to jump in on this first and then pass it over. But I think the key thing that I like to do, and you need to take a step back. First of all, hone in on your ICPs, which are independent customer profiles. Who is your target market? Who are the people that are going to buy or use your service, buy your product or use your service? And once you've honed in on them, you need to think about everything from the way that the brand messaging, relaying the culture of the brand, but more importantly, establishing your content pillars. Because Max said something that is so true. Like, you could have all the money in the world, you could have the best product or service, if you're not having consistent content that's going out where people can come into the community, they're seeing the content that's coming out, you're never really going to get traction for that brand. So when you hone in on those content pillars, I want to touch on something that I use personally, which is called the marketing hourglass technique. Now, I didn't coin this, but what you're doing actually is not just enticing in people with the content that that resonates with them, but it's a constant loop. So most people know that sales funnels, they lead to a dead end. The customer's onboarded, and then that's it. There's no other conversation. So what marketing hourglass technique is about using, and I forget the guy's name, but a marketing kind of guru of 1980s, he said that you're constantly reselling. This includes things like loyalty programs, brand ambassador programs, referral programs. What you're doing is you're constantly re-engaging that user to a point where they're helping the brand grow. They're not just using your product or service, they're actually helping the brand grow by onboarding more people. And this is what we have to do, and something that I was actually worked with B2Crypto for a number of years, and obviously Victor, what a team they have there. We were really an integral part in launching what was known as, well, the educational arm, which we're going to come to, because education is a huge part of what you need to do in this space. But the actual brand ambassador program, having an army of individuals that are working advocates for you. And I think that's what's really important that people are missing. And I think we're going to probably go into this a little bit deeper, but the next iteration of how we're going to grow in this space as brands is actually bounty campaigns. These bounty campaigns, people are going to come on board, work for the brands, help hit your targets, and they're going to get incentivized and rewarded for the work they do. And we're going to see a lot more of this. So brand ambassadors is the first part of that question, like to say as a strategy standpoint, you need to establish early on. And then coming into that, which I'll let the guys take over from me now, but going to these parts where you're actually going to grow each aspect. So marketing, so we need some people here that are going to grow this campaign. We need people on the community side that are going to engage those individuals. And then just making sure that you're kind of, putting everything into a bow and making sure that the community is growing consistently. Like to jump, Max.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you ask a very complex question in terms of we can stay here and speak for hours, but in general, like he said something true when it comes to the communication side. I will just give a little bit of an example on how we work with the clients, for example, right? So first of all, is the introduction call, right? You need to understand the brand tone, the brand positioning, what's the product, what's the roadmap, what internal resources they have, because some teams, they come to me, they're like, yeah, we have a content creator, and then I'm like, hey, he's available always, like, can he, like if there is a last minute news, can you create some, funny communication regarding your product and the, last minute news, because that's what attracts more views, likes, whatever, right? So obviously we understand, first of all, the, business proposition of what they are selling, roadmap, and then we help them, first of all, with the content calendar, content creation, right? We understand, okay, what's your communication looking like? Now, what we do then, we leverage their communication with amplifying the communication and getting more audience to see the communication, right? So we still go back to content creation communication, right? So they have great communication. We now amplify that, how we amplify that. We do have, obviously, KOLs, right? Like everyone knows Web3 space is kind of lead by the KOL somehow, or these ambassadors, or key opinion leaders, the way you want to call it. But yeah, we try to onboard the ambassadors. When I say, I like to call them ambassadors because KOL sounds like, scammers, but in general, ambassadors, why? You want to onboard those people, they are not there just for the 2-3K post. They understand the product, they probably use the product themselves, and of course they get paid for that, but they will promote it more in a, in a way that they make the product their own, right? So you get an ambassadors, obviously you analyze what you're trying to, sponsor the product, which countries, which regions, what's the target audience. Definitely you need to understand that. And then after that, essentially you just understand the other avenues you have. KOLs is not enough, right? KOLs are not always the best way of entering a market or promoting a product. So what we personally are exploring Telegram ads, for example, right? It's something new, came out this year. a lot to be improved behind the scenes, but we're still trying to leverage Telegram user base to promote projects. We use Brave Ads. Brave Ads has 25 million users daily. And what Brave Ads is known as the Web3 browser, right? So if you think about it and you want to promote yourself there, you actually have the right audience. Now you can obviously target your audience similar to Meta and Facebook ads, but at least the people you are speaking with, it's essentially people they've been trading or like owning NFTs. So we really like try avenues that probably other people don't know, they never heard about it. And when we speak with the client, essentially, obviously really related to the budget, right? The spending, because some clients, they have high expectation with low budget, and I'm like, look, I would love to help you, but we cannot really work together, right? So yeah, we explore different avenues. Promoting the project is promoting your communication, essentially. So everything comes from that easy content calendar that you have to create with your nice visuals, with your nice whatever roadmap news upcoming, and then leverage all the other channels to amplify and get more users to see what you're telling to people. So it's a narrative, right? I mean, you have to speak about your brand. And yeah, that's it. Then obviously, if you're on board users, what's the call to action at the end? You want people just to sign up, you want them to trade, you want them to, whatever, buy your product, do some on-chain activity, whatever. So it's a process, obviously, right? It's a funnel. But yeah, I think that's kind of briefly explain how we work with clients. We try to understand definitely their brand, their product, roadmap, what's upcoming. And then, yeah, we do PR as well. I mean, PR is definitely one of the avenues I'll look into it. That's a good way to amplify your user base. And yeah, all the other good stuff, all the channels. Honestly, we're trying this year all the channels. Like, there is no such Web3, Web2 social media. It doesn't exist. X is not a Web3 social media. We call it Web3, but there is so many like users that are not related to Web3 or X. Like, I won't call it Web3, but yeah, definitely I will just look into all the socials and try to communicate on all of them.
Yeah, and to position this question, one sec, sorry, for Victor, you as a representative of Be in Crypto, you're one of the top 3 media publications in Web3. How do you approach community growth and perhaps getting that content out there for the partners that you have when it comes to advertising and promoting in an organic way that seems natural to your audience?
Thank you. I think people are loyal to the one that bring them value. So usually what works the best is learn articles. So people that join Web3, whenever they joined it, they remember how they learned, who they learned from, and what happened with the information they used from that outlet. So usually the best is just not like a news or like a launch of a product. It's more like learning about the industry, and then when they trust a certain content maker, they come back to you and they trust you for purchasing.
Amazing. So it's a lot of trust building, and it's what I'm hearing you say is meeting people where they're at and winning their trust, as opposed to expecting that they would trust you without knowing you. He had a question. Maybe on this mic.
Hello, everybody. So my question is this one. I'm wondering why in the Web3 world we are thinking to do things different. So we want to have Web3 marketing, we want to have Web3 social media, and so on. So, but the reality outside of here is that people don't care about what is the platform that deliver their services. They just want services. If you look to the explosion of Web 2, nobody told people, oh, we are doing Web 2 and this is a revolutionary technology, okay? They got new way to communicate, they got new way to interact with websites, they got new way to buy online, and that changed the life of people. So that's the real point, and I want to hear your comment here. So if we want to make this technology effectively available for people and make a massive, let's say, jump, no? In terms of commercial, in terms of diffusion of technology, we need to change our wording. We need to change our mindset and offer people services. They want services. They don't want. They don't care about it's Web3. It's on the web, in the blockchain or what else. Okay, that's. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, great question. I think you're exactly right. You're hitting on something that's really important. It's not about wiping the slate clean. It's about using techniques from a Web2 space that work in a Web3 space. But I think something that Max said that's really what I'm trying to say here is that we have an opportunity to change things for the better, because there is also techniques and strategies used within the Web2 space that are outdated, that are not, for example, remember when you used to call people and sell them on the phone? That's just not a thing that's used anymore. And this is why I think, subtly, I said something at the start, the best way to sell is to not sell. I think that we're just adapting, we're pivoting slightly as to the angle, the direction that we're doing to actually entice these new users. Because, don't get me wrong, we've got people that will always use our products and services, but when we onboard new ones, we need to find a way that encapsulates them and brings them on board in such a way that they want to be part of the brand, that they resonate with that brand. So I think the key difference is that we use the things that work well in Web 2, but we're adapting them in such a way that's going to allow us to have more consistent, more cyclical growth in that sense, and not having to constantly spend money on these campaigns to then onboard new users. Because really that's what it's about. And when you think about meme culture today and what memes have done for cryptocurrency as one aspect, I mean, Richard Dawkins wrote the book, A Selfish Gene, which was in 1972, I believe. So memes have been around for nearly 3 decades now. But only now is the culture getting used. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's things that have been used in the past that have evolved in such a way that now are become the next generation of what we're doing. So I don't think that we're changing the marketing, we're just adapting them. And I think that's what's really key, is that don't reinvent the wheel. We have to use the momentum that we have within the marketing space, but we also do have to change it slightly and adapt it. And I think that's what the space is trying to do. Don't get me wrong, I think there is aspects of it that are almost like trying to completely just, nuke everything else that's happened thus far, but it's not. It's really about, finding a way that will, allow for more fruitful markets for each organization that's operating in that space. But interested to know what you guys...
I have just a quick one. I mean, it kind of covered everything. But I think what you said is right? There is no distinction between Web 2, Web 3 marketing. It's wrong. It's a wrong approach. It's a wrong thinking of the marketing. Marketing is marketing for everything, right? I think what's missing Web 3, onboarding all this mass adoption, is the user experience. Like using an app, using any application on chain for a normal person, common Web 2 guy, is not easy. Like for them, it's like, wow, what's this, right? So I think marketing is not marketing missing out on onboarding the next billion people, is the user experience of the products in Web3. I do. I mentioned before, we do use all the channels. So for me, there is no Web 2, Web 3. Like for me, TikTok, X, whatever channel, whatever way you communicate, I take the same approach for Web 2 business. That's it. Doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist.
I think that's a very good take, and it sounds hopeful to say we don't have to nuke everything and burn it to the ground and be like, that wasn't me on Instagram, I never did that, and start over. So what I'm hearing you say, Max, is you meet people where they're at. And Victor, what would you say are some tips, or what is the approach that BM Crypto has to meet people? Because as a publication of this size, you're obviously speaking to an audience that is perhaps interested in crypto, that is more of a newbie. You have people who are advanced, you have people who are crypto native. What are some approaches that BM Crypto uses to give valuable information and to retain all of these people in that audience?
Okay, interesting. So 2 parts, meet digitally and physically. Digitally, well, we have all kind of level of learn articles, and news articles. So either you're already part of Web3 and you're gonna go to a very complicated technical review because you already understand your stuff. But we also, for the newbies, and honestly, most of the time it's most of the audience, we try to like popularize, vulgarize everything. Um, so it's very important, but it's very hard to do because, kind of as you said, like we usually talk in between us, just in the same industry. But when you go out of the industry and you talk to somebody else, like you speak another language, nobody understands. So yeah, really try to explain in the easiest terms, but also I would say I agree with you. Not everybody needs to know how it works in the end. Like everybody, there's 100 people in the room, 99 people don't know how email works. Yeah. But all of them use emails because it's useful, they know why. So in the end, we need to show people the use cases of Web3 and not the blockchain technology or whatever it is behind it. It's very interesting in between us, but it's not interesting to mainstream public.
That's such a good point. And it's almost like you don't need to know how the salami is made to have it on your pizza and enjoy it. Kat, did you have a question? No, go on, go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, in Web3, you have the average customer has way more customer awareness than in the rest of, than in other markets, so to say, in other niches. But it's more and more, so to say, bleeding into the let's call it average world. And so via jewelry, which maybe have an NFT attached and on the blockchain. And so what strategies would you employ in that case? Because of course someone may be interested, but Web3 has so much distrust around it. There's so much, so nice ring, but nah, I don't know what it means. You're surcharging me. So how would you approach a strategy to market something like that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's a great question because Victor was just talking about education and how important that is around this space. Because when you think about it, we're in the next iteration of the internet. Web 3.0 is really about us being part of building the future of the internet. We're in the 5th generation of blockchain. But when you coincide those, all that means is that we're actually actively part of the growth, even if we're not developers. Developers have built the foundation. This is why blockchain is the industry I've always wanted to work in, because we're part of the change or the democratization, as we call it, of the internet. So you said something that's really important is the scams, the things happening to people. This is always going to happen, and no matter what industry you work in. The key difference is that within this space, we're the ones responsible for it. So if we onboard someone into a community and they get scammed through an NFT that wasn't us, wasn't a community manager, was someone else, that falls on us, doesn't it? So I think every single organization in this space has a duty to provide education. So education is really the long answer and the short answer, because if we provide a safe haven and a safe platform for people to come in, learn, exchange, buy NFTs as an example, they're always going to have risks involved. For example, even transferring money to your friend, there's going to be a risk involved. You know, they might send it to the wrong address. But within this space, absolutely, those risks are even more prevalent. So I think it's really important that from day one, you have a network of people around you that you can trust. And that's what's sometimes difficult for people that are coming into this space, is that they don't have that security chain per se, do they? They're kind of coming in as a lone ranger. They might be a little bit embarrassed to ask for help. So what we need to be doing and making sure that on a regulatory side, organizations are held accountable for those kind of scams. You know, I remember working with Being Crypto, and the amount of times people would come in and pretend they're, you know, a social media manager and scam someone. So this needs to be acted on straight away, because the more that this happens, and sadly every bull cycle, we're coming into the super cycle now, which you guys are all aware about, but every bull cycle, these scams go up about 80%. So what we have to do is see the correlation between the markets themselves and the way that the volatility of those markets and how that can have a knock-on effect on the individuals coming in. Because you have to realize as well is that every single wave that comes in, for example, right now with the meme coin mania that's been fueled by on the Solana blockchain, there's so many people in that space that are losing money, that are buying into rug pulls, that are getting scammed. So we need to make sure that in advance we're saying, like, look, this is how you do it, this is how you navigate the space. And I think, you know, especially organizations like Being Crypto and the way that they do it with offering these Learn articles, the Academy, offering educational support. Every major foundation that you'll see today, every major blockchain that became a foundation has now got an education arm. And this is exactly what you're talking about, which is so important. So I'm glad you raised that question and interested to know what the guys think as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Honestly, I think the only option is education. I remember the ICO era, and it was very similar to now, right? Obviously, they were calling different the startups or these new techs coming up with all these nice technologies, ICOs, and people bought into it and they lost money. So I think each season, each cycle, we do have scammers. Like it's kind of part of the game, right? So the only way to avoid that is like to know what you're doing, right? So I think we recall it to, being active, educate yourself, learn, and brands should also have educational content, educational arms, and trying to help you to understand the product, understand how to do the right steps. We all do mistakes. I've lost a lot of money in crypto in general, right? Even sending it to the wrong network, for example. In the beginning, I was like, what's going on, right? But no one was there to like teach me, oh yeah, you need to select the right network. And it happens. I think we will always have scammers. Web2, it's full of scammers as well, let's be honest. It's traditional business in general. There is always someone there with a malicious intention to scam you, steal your money, so I'm not surprised.
No, it's funny because even people that have been in the space for a long time, like we get scammed. And funny thing you said there is the ICO era, but you come in on a pre-sale and the market and the token doesn't even launch. Like we've all been there. But I think the key thing that we do in this space is we talk about it. So it's not just about talking about our wins, about how much money we make. It's actually about talking about our losses and how to prevent that from happening to others. And that's really where I think it's important to have that open discord around that. And Victor, obviously, you probably work with this every day on that side.
Yeah, even if it's a million users industry, the makers, the builders, everybody knows each other, as you said. So, I mean, if you scam someone, everybody's going to know. People in the industry knows. And that's something I forgot to say earlier for the media and how we meet people. So physically, we don't only go to crypto events, we also go to events that are more mainstream to meet people that are not familiar yet with Web3. So it's important to all meet. And yes, I mean, you know that, all the scam checks we do before we work with partners, but they are always companies that are going to pass the scam check. Like we, as with Being Crypto, never worked with FTX, for example, but lucky us, but who knew? You know what I mean? So like if they knew, like you should have spoken. So do your own research, very cliche, but even if one media, trust Being Crypto, but verify always your sources and several sources.
Yes, Dior always. Andrea, I think we're out of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I just wanted to point out that I guess all of you guys had that experience of like someone hearing you're in marketing and be like, oh, you're in marketing, oh. And like thinking that's an easy thing to do, but actually marketing is so crucial in Web3. And this is why I think we should give a big round of applause and support people in marketing. Respect.
Just want to say, just want to say one final comment there, because there was one part that we didn't go into on the strategy side, but developing partnerships, key partnerships within your organization is vital, and one of the strategies you need to use, coming to events like this, aligning with other organizations that have the same vision that you have, and collaborating with communities to help your own growth. And I think, just like Andrea said, it's the most difficult industry because usually it's the one that's cut the first. As soon as marketing's not operating well, as soon as not hitting your parameters, it's going to get chopped. But that's what marketing is about, guys. It's about constantly pivoting, constantly changing and adapting the strategies you're using to make sure that you get the results that you want. And this is why it's such a difficult industry to I think, operate in, is because it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. But that's just something I want to say on a final note, because really, thanks again for today, guys, and we'd love to connect with all of you. So please come up and speak to us about anything, and we'd love to connect with you guys on a personal level. So
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.